a lot of technological finessing y'all are doing.
Thank you. All right, everyone, let's welcome Ashko, the director of I'm Free, Now You Are Free.
Hi.
Hi, Ash. This is Herb with Sheffield DocFest. We're really excited to have you. And we just watched your film. I wonder first if you could tell us about, how you first heard about the Move project and maybe, how the beginning of this work developed.
Yeah. So I met Mike through just like political organizing circles and the movement. And the film really started because I was sitting down with him. Me and like other comrades were sitting down with him, and we were like doing these interviews and like transcribing just him talking about his life story for a different project. And it got to a point where we realized and decided that adding like a audiovisual element to it and making it into a film would really add depth to his story. Yeah, that's how this film started.
Thank you. And just to mention, we have, you're welcome to submit questions via Slido, slido.com. I can give you the code here because I don't think it's on the screen, 442089. So slido.com, 442089. Yeah, and thank you. Some of the questions are already coming in. So Ash, we get a real sense of kind of the personal lives of, Debbie and Mike. And this may be different than, what I've seen in past depictions of like the Move documentaries and like also documents. Can you tell us about maybe how you wanted to showcase these very personal aspects of their lives? And I guess, you said that you met Mike through political organizing, but really how did you sort of convince them to open up this side to you and to the camera?
I don't think they needed much convincing. I don't know. We just like were like, why don't we do this? That's awesome. And then that's how like that started. Of course, the process of making the film, there were definitely difficult emotional moments. And I think and I guess this informs the way the film was made, is like, I really valued our relationship. And I think that's the point of anything we do, and the point of filmmaking is to like center the relationship and like build collective power through the process. And so when moments got difficult emotionally, I think we had a process in which we centered their feelings. I don't know, like it wasn't about like trying to stick to any production schedule. It was like, all right, we need some time right now and we're gonna take a step back and just like really centering the interpersonal relationship, which I think is the point of the story too.
Yeah, and you feel that time spent between you and them, in making this. I feel like you feel that connection that has obviously developed over time, and that these are different moments that are really stacked together really beautifully. We have an audience question. So what inspired your use of the film camera on the trampoline? I guess they're asking about the different sort of media in the film.
Yeah. So the Super 8 camera was a creative aesthetic decision because we wanted the Africa family to make their own home videos, essentially, like make their own family tapes that they maybe would have been able to make if they weren't separated by the state because of the political repression. So by giving the film camera to them and just having them document their lives, it was a way to tap into an abolitionist imagination, which insists on the possibility that this is the dignified life that they deserve and that everybody deserves.
I want to talk a little bit about the actual sort of geography in the film. I used to live in West Philadelphia myself, and as I said, during the intro, move is like a very much a presence in the neighborhood, not just historically, but in the present. We see Mike walking the streets and talking to people on the street, but what was it actually like for you to be, on this like actual same territory as them, as all this history? And I guess I was also wondering, do they live in the same neighborhood now that the move house was located in?
Yeah, no, they don't live in the same neighborhood. And actually, I do think like if we talk about the 85 bombing of Osage Avenue, that's like peak gentrification, right? Where you're quite literally like burning down the entire neighborhood. And now it's just, that's like the long take of Mike walking down the street is all like condos that look a certain way. But yeah, I think that we were really trying to like, instead of, you talked about like these other movie films that like use a lot of historical footage, like archival footage of these confrontations that have happened. They're well documented by media apparatives, like state apparatuses. And so we wanted to like center Mike's personhood within the geography of all of these sites. And so he walks on Palatine Avenue, where the 78 confrontation happened, and he like talks to people that he sees. It's just how he is. He like is talking to people when he walks around, and walking down Osage Avenue, and then at the end walking down Reno Street where he grew up. But yeah, it was a very intentional decision not to use like the actual footage, the archival footage of that time, and instead just like watching him and centering him in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great choice. Obviously, this story is ongoing and it's very present. And there's another audience question about, the recent controversy about the remains of the children that were killed in the 1985 bombing, and wondering, were the collaborators aware of this, and was there any discussion during the production of this film about that thing that has come to light publicly more recently?
Yeah, so we didn't know about that when we were making the film, which we were shooting from like 2018 through 2020 essentially. So that's like a recent development that's like disgusting and shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely not sadly not surprising as well.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got time for just a couple more questions, but what's your sense of what the future is going to be looking like for Mike and Debbie now that they're sort of reunited? We see them at the Free Mumia rally, and obviously there's going to be a continuation of political activism. But can you say anything else beyond that? Maybe just from your own personal, yeah.
Yeah. The political work continues as it always does. I just want to like shout out Mike Sr. Mike Sr. and Debbie really quick, because they just recently made like their own little short film about their love story. So Mike Sr. is not featured in this film particularly heavily, because it was like a short. There wasn't really like space as a director, I felt, to like talk. Like I wanted to center on the mother and son relationship. But Mike Sr. and Debbie recently made a short about their love story of being separated for 40 years and coming back together, and also the political struggle. So I feel like, being out with the political struggle that continues, it's like stepping into their own power also as authors of this story, and like utilizing resources and tools around them. They actually made that little film with Scribe Video Center in Philly, to start becoming, to like tap into the creative cultural dimension of political struggle, which is I think always a way in which we get closer to our own humanity and access that.
And you know, as you mentioned, Scribe Video Center, and we're also going to be watching right after this film, the 1980 Move Confrontation in Philadelphia film. You know, what can you offer anything about the sort of legacy of community media in documenting Move, and like how maybe just, you know, anything about your personal reflections on community media? I mean, this is very much like an authored film. It feels like maybe a bit different, even though it is collaborative in a sense as well. But
Yeah, you know, I'll say this. I think that filmmaking, beyond the creation of visual story that's like put onto the world and like consumed by people, or like watched by people and engaged with by people, I think another really important aspect of filmmaking is the process of making the film, in which there's so much potential for like creative collaboration and subversive relationship building. um and I think that's almost like half the story, like half the point of filmmaking, right, is to like think of how within the production process, which is historically hierarchical and like historically, if we think about film and media making as like an ideological state apparatus, it's historically repressive. So how do we, in the process of making films, reorganize social relationship and social hierarchy in a way that is confrontational to the institution and that is subversive in itself? Yeah. So which is to say, I think like community collaboration filmmaking, there is like deep political potential within that.
yeah, definitely. And I think maybe the last thing I want to ask, just out of curiosity, is, you know, what will you be working on next? What can we expect to be coming from you down the line? Can you say anything about projects you might have in the works?
Yeah. I'm actually making a personal political film about my mother and I's relationship now. It's about a relationship of fracture. And I was born and raised in Singapore. And so it is about using our interpersonal, like I think like with the film that y'all just watched, using the interpersonal to amplify the political, which is to say like I'm gonna talk about our relationship and like healing our relationship, but also like the social material conditions that creates and props up fracture within the post-colonial condition of Singapore.
That's really great, and it's something for us all to look forward to. But I think right now we'd really just like to thank you for sharing your film with us here in Sheffield. So everyone,
Yeah.
please thank Ashka.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.